So today is Friday. Friday there is less noise in the boatyard. I brought my boss to see what they did the whole week because Roberta is not coming. Too much noise for the baby, too much dust. But now I can show her and explain her everything they did this week, and then I can explain you because the boat's looking beautiful.
Hi, I'm Roberta.
And I'm Duca.
And after bringing a sailboat that was neglected for over 22 years back to life, we moved aboard, and for the next 2 years we explored the Brazilian coast and part of the Caribbean, where we got an offer that changed our lives once again. We sold our boat and we moved to France, where we are building our new 43-foot aluminum exploration sailboat.
And while the boatyard is building the whole of our new sailboat, we are learning the craft by converting a camper van to get ready to build the interior and all the systems of the boat ourselves.
So don't forget to subscribe and to join us every Sunday for a new episode.
So what do you think? It looks big now?
It's good.
That's how big the transom is, and that's how big Roberta is. What do you want to know? You tell me and I'll explain.
What did they do this week?
So this week, I think from the last video you watched, there was no bulkheads. Right now we have two. So the first bulkhead they put this week was this last one. This, as you can see by the seat, that's the cockpit locker bulkhead. That's a watertight bulkhead. And the reason why it's watertight is because the rudder system is behind, and we wanted to isolate the rudder from the rest of the boat. In case you lose the rudder, you don't sink the boat. This space is gonna fill up with water, but that's it. So there is no risk of sinking the boat because of rudder failure. That's why you have this bulkhead. This next one looks huge. Sorry for the noise, they're working inside this boat. So even though this bulkhead looks huge, a lot of it is going to be cut. They didn't cut because it's easier for them to work with the entire bulkhead, and then they cut the door. The door is going to be like...
Going inside the boat for the first time. It's slippery.
Just so you understand, so here's the cockpit. That's the seat of the cockpit. This is the center of the cockpit. Our door, when you enter the boat, is not on the center of the cockpit, it's on the starboard side. So the door is like here. So that means 70 centimeters, this high and this high. This is a cutoff. So that's the watertight bulkhead that when you go inside the boat. From here forward is the boat. From here back is just storage area, rudder system, cockpit workshop. So we're going to have a big lazarette here for storage, and here is going to be the workshop, a big hatch opening here, and now you can see how high it's actually. I can fit standing up on the workshop. So it's not a huge workshop, but enough space for a lot of storage under the cockpit and a bench, and I think that's awesome. And this is also watertight, so one compartment, two compartments, the next one. Let's go forward. The tricky part of this build is this moment, to be honest. I think these two bulkheads were the most complicated parts. So the first bulkhead that went in is this one, and as you can tell, there is a lot of curve on this plate, and this is 10 millimeters thick, so that means 1 centimeter. That's almost half-inch thick, and they needed to curve and weld in place, and there's a lot of tension. When you bend something this thick, the amount of tension on the plate is insane, and the way they do that is pretty much they put the bulkhead in place, they tack weld the center, that is the flat part, and in order to do that, they needed to bend these panels down, otherwise it doesn't fit. Like in the first try, when they put in place, this panel was too high, and the bulkhead would not go to place, so they put a huge metal beam on the transom, because when you put a huge metal beam here, that means this panel goes down, just force itself down. So first they tried just with the beam, was not enough, so they needed to hang on the side with a chain to a, I don't know, like maybe a ton of lead, I'm not sure, like a pile of lead that's really heavy, and try to pull this panel down in order to fit the bulkhead, and somehow they managed to put in place, and I was like, oh, that's good, we did it, tack weld, it's fine. Let the beam go. As soon as the beam lifts, it's like bang, bang, bang. Each one of the welds explode in order, so they needed to do all over again, and this time they put more welds, bigger length welds, to hold the tension. And you might think, so isn't that scary because maybe when you're sailing, the welds are gonna just pop out. Not really. The thing is, this panel, once you have the entire hull welded together, the tension is transferred in many different points. So that means you distribute the tension. Right now, the only thing holding the tension of this panel is this bulkhead that is 6 millimeters thick, and that's why it's not, it didn't hold at first. And also this panel is gonna be watertight, so it's gonna be fully welded the whole length of the panel. So it's gonna be plenty strong, but it needs to get other panels in the system. Once everything works together, it's gonna be 100% fine. After that bulkhead, we came to this one, and the crazy thing is that, so this method of construction, we have a video fully explaining. It's called Strongo. If you didn't watch the video, that's the video. It's pretty much an origami, and you have the right length of plates, and when you weld them together, they go to the right shape by itself. So that means as soon as you weld that plate in place, this one is much easier because you already bend the side on the way it's gonna be. Like, of course, not 100% because there's a lot of tension involved, but this bulkhead went in so much easier. They just needed to pull it down a little bit, the sides, put it down, tack weld, slowly come back and tack weld everything, and it's in place now. after like a few days doing this, they jump to this part. The panel on the side of the boat doesn't come all the way to the bow, it stops like around here. So this is the detailing of the bow cone that I mentioned. So imagine that this is the bow, and that is actually the piece. You see the lines, that's a mark where they're gonna bend. So on this mark, they bend a little bit, on this so they keep bending a little, until it's round. But here the marks are together, like close together. And here the marks are much more widely spread. And that means when you do a line from this point to that point, it's not straight, it's not parallel, it becomes a cone, becomes much narrower in the bottom, wider on the top, and that's what they need to do. The problem is it doesn't fit perfectly on the press, so they're just trying to figure out how they're gonna shape this piece, and that's gonna be next week. That's pretty awesome. I can't wait. This is a really complicated piece, and it's gonna look really cool when you have the bow of the boat. So that's like, you know, and just having the opportunity to see them actually building the bow of the boat and the whole boat is just mind blowing. Love it.